So I have this book review-ish sort of thing. Spoilers or whatever. Let me find it. Okay. So it was called Klara and the Sun by Katsuo Ishiguro. I always try not to be like mean and like really harsh with these, because I know it's really hard to make a story and make anything like creative, But the thing is, I don't want to be dishonest either. And I didn't really like it too much. It was really slow. And I was talking about it with my mom, and she was like, it sounds almost like a Twilight Zone episode. And like, yeah, it is. It's almost like if you just really got a really drawn out Twilight Zone episode. It just, something about the pacing was very, very slow. But it was still interesting, I guess. It's sci-fi, and so I wanted to read something that was sci-fi for my autumn reading challenge. So that's the only reason why I read it and why I finished it. And I wanted to, see it completed and, learn what it's really about. I found 10 questions. I find different groups of book club sort of questions. So I found this one. And the first one says, what was your favorite scene and why? So this is going to have spoilers, just so you know. This video will have spoilers. So Josie recovering from her illness, that was my favorite scene, I suppose. How did the characters change throughout the story? I wrote, Josie and Rick drift apart. Josie recovers from her illness and Rick pursues his own goals. That's the only things that really change about anyone. Honestly, like the characters are really annoying. I feel like all of the people were very insensitive, like how do I describe it? Like it felt like, because it's sci-fi, right? So it's about a society that's kind of interdependent with AIs. So they have these AFs, so artificial friend, and it felt like the sort of more affluent parts of society, the ones who were able to afford AFs and were in the cities and experienced the AIs that were integrated into humanity, almost as a substitute for humanity in a way. And it's weird. It felt like the AIs were more kind and compassionate than the actual people. The people, most of the characters seemed a little obtuse and a little selfish and caught up in their own worlds. But then there's Josie's father, who's like, he's not in that. I think he lost his job because of AIs, and but he's the one who's more grounded in a way. Like he feels more compassion, more value in humanity. But he's in like the lower class section of cities where like people are mostly unemployed and kind of just surviving on their own. And they've got these communities, almost like gangs. They got kind of extreme, that there's some gangs there, but also there's community, and it's like they see value in people and that there's something special in everybody. And there's like, I don't know how to describe it. They're just, it seems like they're a little bit more empathetic and kind. The father was the only one who didn't really get on my nerves too much. The other ones were really obtuse and kind of selfish. And most of them don't really change. But I think that's the point. It's just like observing what society would look like in the future if it was like dependent on AI and stuff. I got distracted. I'm sorry. The third question is, why do you think the author chose the setting, how did it relate to the plot? I put there wasn't much descriptions of a specific location, but it was set in a dystopian society, dependent on AI. Like I said, she means to show, or the author means to show, the dangers of loneliness and being disconnected with humanity, and of being dependent on AI or technology. So I guess it's sort of like we're drifting on that path, where we sort of like with our phones, I guess, how everyone has these devices and it connects all of us, but at the same time everyone is lonely and feels disconnected and isolated. The future, basically, of that. Everyone is like really unkind and lonely and a little bit selfish. What surprised you while reading this book were the hints for the plot twist. Okay, this is the creepy bit, but it starts in the middle of the book. The first half is like really, it's kind of slow, but then the plot twist drops in the middle. So it again, spoiler. The mother wanting an AI puppet to replace her daughter was disturbing. So her daughter Josie was sick, and what she wanted was to get an AI to imitate her daughter and to look like her daughter, so that when she died, she wouldn't feel lonely and she could still have her daughter around. And that really creeped me. It was really creepy, and most of the characters didn't think it was that big a deal. The only one who thought it was suspicious was the father. But yeah. And the hint to this was when she asked the AF to imitate Josie. So when she was trying to buy the artificial friend, she made her imitate her daughter. Yeah, she's like, can you imitate the way Josie walks, the way she speaks? Do you know anything of her mannerisms, and what have you observed about her? Trying to get her to imitate her. So she bought the AF, and the programming of that specific AF was going to put into this other sort of vessel or whatever that was sculpted to look specifically like her daughter. So that was creepy. It's like she didn't see her as a person. She saw her as something to serve her. She saw her own daughter as something to serve her, so she doesn't feel lonely. There's no individuality about her, and a lot of people agreed. Like the sculptor Capaldi was like, there's nothing different between one of the AIs and a person. You could replicate everything about a person. And the only one who was like, that's really weird and creepy, was the father. And he's the one who wasn't around AIs. So it's like he was just only around people. And he empathized more with people and saw that there was value in them. Everyone else was sort of starting to lose that and kind of seeing people as something to serve them. It's kind of selfish in a way. Yeah, it was weird. What drew you into the book and what made you keep reading? Like I said, I just wanted to finish something for my autumn reading challenge. That was about it. The book started off really slow and then it got really weird. But also like the obsession to complete something. Like I started this, now I want to finish it. That's about it. That's the only thing that kept me reading. What was your favorite quote or passage? I wrote the father's argument against having the AF replace their daughter. So there was a part where he was talking about how I can't repeat it word by word, but how did he say it? It was like, it makes it feel like he's trying to steal the daughter away. Hold on, my throat caught for a second. That when Capaldi talks, the scientist or sculptor guy who's trying to make the AI version of Josie, he said, it sounds like you're trying to take away the value of my daughter. You know, that's how it is, and you don't understand that unless you really properly love a person, you know. And you know that there's something really special about her heart in specific and everybody's heart in specific. And he starts describing like, what if a heart was like a house and you walked in there, but then there's like all these other rooms. But then what if each room you went into had other secret rooms, and each of those secret rooms had more secret rooms? You know, it's really complex. The human heart and the way we experience things and understand things, express ourselves, you can't just replicate any person. And yeah, it was just interesting hearing him talk about that. What themes or symbolisms did you notice in the story? I wrote a lot of stuff. I didn't really know how to quite, concisely answer that. But I put loneliness, faith, religion, humanity, the angry bull, and the kind sun. So like the AF, it's almost like she was praying. It's almost like she had a religion of her own, because she would like believe in the sun. Like the sun had a special nourishment, that the sun could heal you, or the sun, you could talk to him and he answers your prayers. At one point there was like a statue of a bull, and it really scared her because it looked like just pure anger and hatred. And so that there's symbolisms there religiously of like, basically God and the devil. But it was interesting that no one taught her that, because none of the people had any sort of faith. It was all just, I don't know, just basically, this is what I want, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I understand, and that's the way it is. There wasn't too much faith there. Like she would pray for Josie. She would pray to the sun that Josie would, that she would heal miraculously. But she was also really afraid of like the anger in the world, things that destroy and stuff. And that was sort of like the bull, or like a symbol of the devil, sort of. And so that was interesting that the AI, no one taught her that. She just instinctively believed it. It wasn't like a programming or something. And so, and there's questions of like, do people have souls, and does that make you special in a way that you can't really understand scientifically or through observation? There's just something in you that you just can't replicate, and it's only you. And what makes you human, and what society might look like dependent on technology and AIs. Yeah. And it says, question 8, how did this world's / setting relate to your own? And so it's similar in that, people the most connected to their AIs, or like in our world it'd be like our devices, somehow they feel the most lonely and disconnected from society. But weirdly they're almost hyper connected, but it has the opposite effect that you would think. It's almost a paradox, but it's really dangerous. Like being hyper connected to everything going on in the world will make you feel more isolated and confused and lonely, but true connection will, bring community and love, and that's what we want. And the devices are supposed to help with it, but not really. It seems to be having an opposite effect. Question 9, almost done with this. So, question 9, do you think the story was plot-based or character-driven? I thought plot-based, and a very slow plot, and it was more like observing the characters. It's not like the characters grow, it's more like observing what the world would look like in this way. They don't change too much. So, and then I said this earlier, but question 10 is, what other books did this remind you of? In what ways was this book better or worse? So earlier I said it was like the Twilight Zone, which isn't a book, it's a show, but it felt like a really long Twilight Zone episode, but it felt really slow, you know what I mean? But it did feel very Twilight Zone, And I was gonna do a fan cast, but I didn't finish that because I couldn't quite do it right. The only ones I cast was like Josie for I put Catherine Newton and Capaldi, who was a sculptor trying to make the AI. I put Timothy Omenson. That was about it. I couldn't really think of anyone else. But then I found out that they're actually working on making this a movie, which I didn't know when I read this. So I just left that blank. I trust the filmmakers to cast it better than me. So I left it pretty much blank. That's about it, really. I'm not sure how I would rate this book. I'm not sure. I don't think I would read it again, but it was really interesting, like observing this sort of dystopian society dependent on like technology and AI, and how lonely people get, because like everyone was lonely in their own ways, but also everyone was like really insensitive and obtuse and didn't really do a good job considering how other people would feel. They would just say things, and it's like, God, why would you say that? Like, it's just really rude, and it's like, how would someone say that and think that was acceptable? And it's kind of like that online, you know, when you see people comment things, and it's like, why would you say that? What makes you think that would be okay to even say that? I mean, you don't really have much of a, you can't have a stance on someone else's mind, what's inside of them, but when you say it, like you said that out loud, like you really told that to a person. And it's like, the more chronically online you are, the more obtuse you could be. And like, you know, people always like touch grass, you know. When you're chronically online and really connected with technology in that way, you become separate from empathy over a long time. And everything's just about what you're experiencing and what you want, what you'd prefer, what you like, and then you're really almost cruel to people who inconvenience you, or that you don't understand, and then you assume things based on what you don't understand, instead of reaching out and trying to ask questions and trying to learn. You just assume things and then become very cruel in that, and just very insensitive. So many of the characters are very, very insensitive and careless, and just so occupied with this is what I want, and this is what would make me feel better, and just being really, really careless with each other. It was kind of staggering. And it was kind of, I almost felt bad for Klara, the AI, because or the AF, because people would be like really, like they were cruel to each other as it was, but then they would be even more insensitive and like really mean to her. But she sort of had an understanding of what things meant, and it made her sad to see people treat each other. And I think it made her sad as well to be you know, when people were upset at things and then they just throw it on her because, well, it doesn't matter, and they would be like really mean to her. You almost empathize with Klara as a person, because she's the most kind and the most empathetic and trying her hardest to be good to others and understand where they're coming from, and no one else is doing that. So when people are like taking things out on her when it has nothing to do with her, it's sad. It's kind of annoying. But yeah, this is an interesting book. I'm not sure if I'd read it again. I'm curious to how they're gonna turn it into a movie, though. What it would look like if they changed certain details or how they present it. But yeah, so that's about it. That's Klara and the Sun. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching, or listening. Hopefully it helps you fall asleep a little bit. So yeah.